the old social networking and make sure that it's gone out. And we are ready to roll. Thank you for tuning in. I super appreciate it. I need 500 more followers to get to 60,000. Think we'll ever get there? All right, we're up. Here we go. It comes down 3, 2, 1. It is Locked On Jazz for the 11th of December. 9 months ago, the Jazz were in Oklahoma City and the season stopped. Today, we get ready for preseason game number 1 of the 2021 NBA season. What to look for in that matchup? What is something that's forgotten about the bubble? What will the rotations be? And it's a live show with all of you and your questions. It's coming up next on Locked On Jazz. Pow! How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Hope you're doing super. I've got a bunch of exciting announcements I can't make that I want to make to you about Locked On. I will tell you, next week there's a major new show debuting on the network, and shortly after there's another major new show debuting on the network. So that is great. We've got preseason basketball tomorrow. Ron Boone and I will be live coming to you on 1280 The Zone, 97.5, and all the rest. Hopefully we'll have some word for you on Audio League Pass. I've not heard anything yet about that. I'll be checking on that, so follow my Twitter at Locked On Sports for more news about Audio League Pass. All right, here's what I want to do today. I want to take your questions. Really want this show to be about you. It's a Friday live edition, but I also have a few things I want to touch on that I think we have been kind of forgotten that I'm watching for as we kick off the season. So the first one that I'm really watching for as we kick off the preseason is the number one thing is that during the season up to March 11th, the Jazz took 41% of their shots as threes. When they went to the bubble, they suddenly took 47% of their shots as threes. And you've heard Bojan Bogdanovic in the media sessions talk about how he would like to be able to, Quinn wants him to take more than the 7 threes that he's taking and a game, which is a lot. We've got the fact that you've got Mike Conley learning and figuring out how to play. Like, Mike Conley had 7 games over 20 in Orlando. He only had 6 prior. Most of those came in February. Like, Mike had figured out how to play Utah Jazz basketball when kind of after the All-Star break and after he got a chance, and then hamstring kind of bothered him a little bit. And if he can stay healthy, I think he may have figured out a little bit of what's going on with the team. So I think we're going to see now, at the same time, we play a big lineup of Favors and Gobert. We're not going to see that. But I do think we're going to see, 47% of our shots were threes in the bubble. That was a conscious effort by Quinn. If you remember, Quinn adjusted to the Quinn kind of played with the team, and massive changes. Like, I think we underplayed how many changes took place last year. Bojan, Jordan, Mike Conley, and George Niang into that rotation. 4 primary pieces were new, trying to figure out how to play what they were differently. When you're in the middle of a season, you can't make massive changes. Quinn got the stoppage of play 9 months ago today and basically took the team through a training camp in which he changed the way they played offensively. And hard to tell how it worked because we played One and Brantley and we did a bunch of stuff in the bubble, but just conceptually changed the way we knew how we played. And part of that was faster with more threes. So now he's got that same group back, add Favors, makes a few adjustments on it. And I think we're building off the exact same thing we saw prior with the Jazz is faster, more threes. Let's see that. Let's go watch what the percentage of shots are threes and how many are early. First good look, 3, go was kind of the message going to the bubble. We'll see if they do that as well. Second thing I'm going to be most interesting to see is the whole idea of what we have from a standpoint of being able to get rotations established. I don't know how you do it in 3 games. It's really not going to be something that you're able to solidified, but there are some principles that I think we're going to see in the rotations. One, we're going to have 48 minutes of either Mike Conley or Donovan Mitchell on the floor. Pretty great. So for 48 minutes, you're going to have Mike Conley or Donovan Mitchell on the floor. Number two, for 48 minutes, you're going to have Rudy Gobert or Derek Favors on the floor. Pretty great. Number three, I think you're going to match Bojan Bogdanovic to Rudy Gobert almost all the time. They did it last year. It worked very well. I'd be surprised if they change that. George takes the role in that bench unit, and he joins us live on Instagram. Hi, George. How are you? Thanks. Are you in the practice facility? Do you get the day off today before shoot around tomorrow? Where are you? As our good friend George Niang stops by and joins the show for a quick minute. We appreciate that. So three principles I think I'm seeing in the rotation. Mike or Donovan at all times, Rudy or Derek at all times, Rudy and Bojan match. Now, after that, I don't know. Like, I don't think you're matching Joe and Derek all the time. I don't know how many minutes Derek's going to play. Derek said he's going to play 20 to 24, and Rudy's going to play 34. Not in the preseason, obviously, but I'm not entirely sure how that works because Rudy is awesome. So I'm not limiting, like, I know Derek's here and Derek's fabulous, but like Rudy's awesome. So Rudy wants 34. Rudy gets 34 in my book. Now, maybe, and I've never seen Rudy in any way, shape, or form look fatigued to me in any fashion, right? Like, it's not as though I watch Rudy. The only time I've actually ever seen Rudy like noticeably fatigued in any fashion is when Rudy, I thought this cost us a game. When down 3-1 or up 3-1 against the Nuggets, they didn't switch Jokic out. Jokic took that in, I'm guessing here, but psychologically as, all right, it's must win. We have to win. I've got to keep going out there. And I felt like Rudy was like, whoa, I'm used to coming out right now. And we didn't have that guy that we could bring in. And that's where Favors becomes great, right? So you want to go suddenly push and have Jokic play 42. Well, fine, we're still having Rudy play 36, 37, and Derek takes those. That's where that becomes a major advantage. But I don't see us suddenly decide that Rudy's playing 30 because Rudy's great. Like, let's not miss that. So I don't know how that other stuff works. Like, but I do think that, and if Bojan is matching Rudy for most of the night, I don't know how Derek's ever playing with Rudy, and I don't know if he's ever going to. So that'll be interesting. The other one I think is going to be really, really interesting. Fourth one here is last year, for all the criticism Tony Bradley's getting since we traded him, which every fan base has a tendency to do, is that the bench unit, which didn't matter if Mike or Donovan was on the floor, of Jordan Clarkson, Joe Ingles, George Niang, and Tony Bradley was great. Not good. Great. Like plus 17. Great. So that group, I think now, is Jordan, Joe, George, and Faves. Woo, doggy. Probably with Mike. That would be my guess. Most of the time. Or some with Donovan. But that lineup was fabulous. And that, to me, is kind of the key to this whole thing of whether or not that lineup holds as well. The two concerns that I have, because I don't want to be just a homer. When Faves was with us before, I talked about this last with all throughout the week, actually. You've kind of heard it multiple times. When Faves was with us the time before, we had Jay Crowder with him most of the time. We had Ricky with him a lot, Dante with him. We had defensive players with him. Can we be as good defensively with offensive players with Faves? George is an offensive player. Jordan's an offensive player. Joe's a little bit of each. Mike's an offensive player. We still made a quantum change 12 months or one season ago with four players going from being defensive players to offensive players. Changing Derek to Bojan, changing Jay to George, changing Ricky to Mike, and changing Dante to Jordan. All and better players in most cases. All offensive players compared to defensive players. Now you've brought back a better defensive center, but can we be elite defensively even though we made those changes? Okay? That's That's the big question. The other one, if I'm just being honest, because I don't want to be a homer, age. Joe and Mike, 33 years old plus. Let's see what they do. Okay. And see how they play. All right. That's my setup for the preseason, a little bit of the season. Pretty fired up. Excited to get your calls in. We'll get your thoughts, your calls, all jumping in here in a minute on Locked On Jazz. Thanks very much for tuning in on Instagram at DLock09. Also on live on Locked On Live on Facebook, on Twitch, and on YouTube, and on Locked On Sports on Periscope and on Twitter. Remember, Locked On Fantasy Basketball is the #1 fantasy basketball show in the country. Top 50 on the iTunes charts right now. Please make sure you go follow it or subscribe so your daily fantasy or your fantasy team is outrageous. Josh Lloyd does a great job. Grab it at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's show brought to you by Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street, also located in Logan and in Linden. The great lineup of SUVs, the Santa Fe, as you guys know by now, we have 2 of them. I do this deal with Murdoch Hyundai, and I'm just buying cars. It's not like somehow I'm losing on this deal. Also, the Kona is the small, little, zippy, fun. Like if you were a single woman Fox sportscaster. Andrea Urban just stopped by and said hi on the show. I don't know why that came to my mind. On Kona, the Hyundai Kona would be fabulous, zipping around, having fun everywhere. Also the Tucson. And if you're got your family, the Palisade with the 3rd row seats, got every bell and whistle imaginable. Located at 4646 South State Street, also located in Logan and Linden. Please email me first so we can set you up and give you the VIP experience by emailing me at dlock09@gmail.com. That's Murdoch Hyundai. Also, tip of the hat to Murdoch Hyundai, Utah foster kids getting boots, and you're getting Al's gift cards during the holidays as well. That's all at Murdoch Hyundai, Logan, Linden, and at 4646 South State Street. All right, let's get to your questions. Let's get going. Will Bojan be? I think Bojan is available to play. I suspect he'll play in the preseason. That's coming from Jazz Nation News. I'm not sure. You might hold him back, but he's, from all of his media interviews, seems to be pretty confident about how he's feeling on things. From Trenton Lloyd, Pelton had us. This is on Facebook, on Instagram. Pelton had us 3rd. Hollinger had us 6th. What analytic difference do you value, or is there a variance too small? You know what I really think is the variance is that small. So I think the Clippers are really, really underrated. They won a ton of games. They're about to win 55 games last year, despite all the supposedly internal problems, despite Paul George being hurt, despite Kawhi Leonard sitting out games. And they're better. Luke Kennard, Serge Ibaka, they're better. The Lakers are loaded. I don't know how hard they're going in the regular season. The rest of the group, Utah, Denver, maybe Portland, Houston, Dallas, New Orleans, I think, is in that group. Phoenix, if they're healthy, is in this group. With 12% of the schedule gone, you've just condensed down what's taking place. So the margin by wins between the 3rd seed and the 9th seed, I think it's going to be really, really, really minimal. And so where Pelton's got him 3rd and Hollinger's got him 6th, might not actually be that different. Hollinger's got whatever his system is. Pelton's using RPM. And so you might not, and Favors comes out very well on that. So you really might not have as big a difference. That might be 1 or 2 wins over 72 games between the difference between those 2 projection systems. It's that tight. I think the important one for us, we have, the difficulty thing, I think, for the Jazz is they have one of the toughest schedules. So that's going to hold them back. They and Toronto have the 2 toughest schedules of any good teams in the NBA. The second part about that I think will be difficult is that early season when we have that massive road trip. What can we get done there? And does the continuity that we have as a team show? Question coming in from Daniel Main. 50-22 this season. Donovan will be a genuine star. Let's go. 50-22 would be like a 57-win team and be the #1 seed, I think. Wow. That is super optimistic. Hello from Athens, Georgia. Athens, Greece, not Athens, Georgia. Athens, Greece. We send back a hello as well. All right, if I'm seeing this correctly, Fave's defensive rating was better than Rudy's in 18-19. Any idea why Fave's was even better with the second unit, and can Faves do the same thing? Yeah, I think the reason was because Faves was playing second units, right? So Rudy and Derek played together. They were dominant. And then Derek's playing against second units while Rudy's playing against starters. So that was the reason. The big question of the day, Xavier Pena. Is Rudy going to sign the extension this year? Let's hope so. Rudy is great. Let's hope they get it done. The positive is every indication I have is that the Jazz are interested in having Rudy back, and Rudy's interested in being back. So you put those two things together, you would hope you can figure it out. I can't imagine that, I don't know, like if their discrepancy over a 5-year deal is $5 million a year, it's $25 million. Figure that out. If it's $50 million, we probably got a problem, right? If they're $10 million away from each other, we got a problem. I don't know. But I'd like to see it done, right? We got about 12 days. I'd like to see it done more because it relieves the discussion, the confusion, any questions, and do that. So I think that that's the question. Is it would relieve a lot. What do you think of the addition of Shaq Harrison? So honestly, I don't know a lot about Shaq Harrison. I texted a bunch of people around the league, and here's what I got. Relentless, nonstop, huge energy, wonky jump shot, worked on it, started to go in, sometimes a little out of control. Absolutely awesome dude. Those were the kind of collection of thoughts I got from around the NBA about him. I appreciate the question. I don't know a lot about him, about whether or not, what kind of player he is. He's a defensive-minded, relentless energy guy. Here's what we've done. We built our COVID team. And what I mean by that is, so we have 1 through 9 as our rotation. 10 through 13 or 14 is your COVID team. Somebody gets COVID and they're out for like 2 weeks. You got to use these guys. Shaq Harrison, play the 1 or the 2. Mia Oni can play the 2, 3, maybe the 1. Jarrell Brantley can play the 3, the 4, 3 or 4. I don't think he can play the 5. Juwan Morgan can play the 4 or the 5. Okay? We got our COVID team. That's what we've done. Elijah Hughes, Udoka Azubuike, I don't expect a single thing from them all year long. It's got the way this has worked, there's nobody that's been at a larger disadvantage than the rookies. I heard Hughes hit some shots the other day. Looked pretty good. Maybe he's just a natural scorer, and if you have to put him in there, you can. But these guys lost all the time going around to NBA teams during the workouts where they learn what NBA basketball is. They missed the 10 or 12 practices before Summer League. They missed Summer League. They missed the August workouts with coaches or on their own coming into September before training camp. They missed the OTAs where everyone comes into town and plays and you kind of figure out everything else. And they missed really a full training camp. There's no chance that these rookies are going to be any good this year, universally across the league. Any rookie that has a very, very good year this year is going to be fantastic because everything is against them in every way, shape, or form right now. And so I don't think that you can expect that. Spencer Ward wants me to tweet the night before. You think I'm that well organized? Michael Evans, how far do you think we can go with this team we have right now? I think we can get out of the first round. I think we get a second round series against the Lakers or Clippers. And then we'll see. We're bigger, so maybe we can handle that better. We can shoot it. We're a good enough shooting team. We should be scary in the playoffs when we get there. We get hot for a night or two. You get cold. I think we match up really well with the Clippers because Rudy gets to play most of the time on the floor, but the addition of Serge Ibaka instead of Montrezl Harrell to me makes them a much, much better team. Derek Alexander wants me to bore everyone to death. Can you give me a refresher on the luxury tax works? I'm curious on how the signing of Mitchell and Gobert to these max deals, along with Conley coming off, will affect future free agents. Will be very limited in future free agents. Derek, I think that's, we have Boyan signed, Joe to that extension, Donovan, Rudy. Like, we're not making a lot of inroads on players at that point. Like, that becomes our team. That's what we've done. Today's show is brought to you by Built Bar. Protein bar, candy bar. Hard to tell. 100% chocolate on every bar. Great macros to make sure that they're healthy and super taste. The Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar you can get. Go to BuiltBar.com. Promo code Locked On. You get 20% off your next order at BuiltBar.com. The chocolate setup, I like the mint brownie. I like the orange. Surprisingly like the orange. I've shared that. The raspberry's okay. Pretty good. Cookies and Cream is their new one that's out there. And the guys on the station the guys on the network love the coconut almond. They say it's like an almond joy, and the peanut butter brownie. Compare it to the leading men's brand, and what you've got is the absolute best macros. You've got less sugar, you've got less calories, you've got more protein. It's Built Bar. Go to BuiltBar.com, use the promo code Locked On to get 20% off. Rejecting the Screen is our kind of esoteric, fun podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. They've done 2 shows recently that are just great. They did one with Ronnie Nunn, the official. Go back through their feed and grab it. It is just outstanding. Let's go to some more questions for you on the live show. Our Instagram feed seems to be in a little bit of a pause right now. My last question last season on the broadcast, any chance of bringing back Favors? And I said no. I did. I didn't think we'd pay $9 million for a backup center. I didn't think that Favors would be willing to come just to be a backup center. And I thought, the other thing we needed was athletic wings, and there just didn't turn out to be any. There just really turned out to be no way to go get an athletic wing. So the Jazz got the best player available. They paid a lot for a backup center, but he's a special dude, and they got him. From Jeff, what was Donovan's point game number in the playoffs, and is it sustainable in your opinion? It is not sustainable. He shot 52% from 3. Donovan's bubble play, and playoff against one series, against one team is never sustainable, right? Because Jokic is a bad defensive player, so they were giving him a certain shot that nobody else was able to give him, or the other teams aren't going to give him. So that was a unique matchup. No, Donovan isn't going to shoot 54% from the field and 52% from 3. Like, he was unbelievable. That's not sustainable. What do you think of Shaq Harrison? Oh, I've lost my Instagram feed. That's too bad. Let me just quickly post this up, and then we'll go back to going live here in a second. So we can go live again and get those. Don't want those people denied their Instagram feed. All right, there we go. We're back. What do you think of Shaq Harrison signing? I'm a huge fan of his defense and athleticism. Shot well from 3 last year, but not the first 2. He was one of the few guys I wanted the Jazz to sign along with Clark's face. Well, Todd, then you're very happy. I mean, honestly, Todd, I don't know a lot about him. He was in Chicago last year. As I said earlier, I checked about him. I think you're, relentless, nonstop energy, good body, needs to play a little bit more control. Hopefully can find one of the guys said rotation player in the NBA, which is, that's a big step for someone to say that, because this is a guy who was a G leaguer and not first round pick and all those kind of things. So for people around the league to say he's a rotation player, that's a big step for his career. When will Ryan Smith officially be governor? I don't know, but I'm just going to guess with a governor election or a Georgia election looming that they'll try to get it done by the end of the year in case of possible capital gains tax. Right? Okay. Yeah. Will players be rested more with condensed schedule? Will we prioritize health over seeding? I don't think so. I think there's a feeling of let's go win. Let's gain confidence. Let's build that. Let's build and broaden our confidence into the upcoming season through having a really good regular season. I don't suspect until maybe the very end, you're going to do that. Now, there might be more rest. We're playing a lot of games in a shorter period of time, and so you may have to do that. Sooner Nation 13 on Instagram. Is Favors starting or coming off the bench for Rudy? I don't know. I would suspect he comes off the bench. I would suspect we start Mike Donovan, Royce, Bojan, Rudy. Mike Donovan, Royce, Bojan, Rudy. Joe and Derek are the first 2 guys off the bench. With Jordan following, with Niang following that as our main 9-man rotation. Oni, Brantley getting time, Morgan probably getting time as well along the way. That's my guess. The COVID team that I kind of was referencing, I gets time as guys get COVID, as we play extra games, and you plug them in. What moves around the West, Rockets, Suns, etc.? Which teams do you think the Jazz match up better or worse this season with basically the same teams? So I think we match up better against Denver because their advantage over us was the amount of athletes they threw at us, and they may have lost some of those. If Michael Porter Jr. progresses, he could be great. If the Rockets we match up better with because they're not going to be as good. Phoenix matches up better against us because they have Chris Paul if they're healthy, and they have Jay Crowder to deal with Bojan. And I really, really like their pickup of Etuan Moore coming off the bench. I think he's a good player. He's gotten old, he's aging, and maybe fading. There's a chance there. And I think the Clippers match up much better against us than they did before because they used to have Zubac and Harrell, so Rudy could be at the rim the whole time, and now they have Ibaka as a 5 who can spread it out a little bit. And the same thing with the Lakers. They have Marc Gasol at the 5 who can spread it out a little bit, where they used to have Howard and JaMychal Green. And so when those, or JaVale McGee, and when those guys were at the rim, Rudy was able to stay at the rim the whole time. So I think when yes, I think the Clippers match up better against us than they used to. We probably match up better against them also, but they match up better against us. I think the Lakers match up better against us. I think we match up better against Denver. Dallas, immaterial, which is a hard matchup for us because of Kristaps. And the Suns are a better team than they used to be. I think New Orleans is really good. Nobody else does, and I understand the fit on court feels funky. They don't have enough shooting. They can't spread it. They just got a load of talent. Like at some point, I just kind of like the load of talent. Like and I think that's I think that matters. Do we have a shot this year, or is it going to be a repeat for LA? I mean, the Lakers seem loaded. I think the Clippers are better, so it's a hard shot. But do we have a shot? Sure. I've always thought that what your goal is as a franchise is to get into the Final Four of your conference. Then you can maybe get what Denver got last year with the Clippers, in which they're having dysfunction. You're playing well. You match up well. You get the, and then you're a sprained ankle away from the finals. Like, it's particularly as in Utah, it's awfully hard to go be a franchise that could be the dominant team. Like, it's just not going to happen very often. We don't sign major free agents. People don't want to, like, we've busted through the idea that no one will come, but we're still not, like, Anthony Davis is not demanding to be traded to Utah, right? Giannis is not demanding to be traded to Utah. So when you look at kind of who we are, you're trying to get into the Final Four of the conference. And I think we've built the team to do that, like, in a really fabulous way. What is this team missing to take a step to be an NBA contender? I think we are an NBA contender. Unless you're going to say you only think Milwaukee, the Clippers, and the Lakers are contenders. We're in that next tier. And I guess Miami should probably be thrown in there. But unless you, like, we're in that next tier. We had 2 offseason needs: backup center and athleticism. We dealt with one of the 2. Like, we're just not very athletic, right? We're sincerely lacking that kind of athlete. Do you think that Shaq Harrison was brought in to stop Jamal Murray? No, I think Shaq Harrison brought in because if Conley got COVID or if Joe gets COVID, we don't have enough point guards. Like, we don't have enough guys who can play. What do you think the idea of taking a 50-32 team from 2018, replacing Crowder, Korver with Bojan, Conley, and Clarkson gets me super excited? Am I drinking too much Kool-Aid? I mean, this is exactly what we've done, right? So we took this dramatic pivot. This is probably a great way to end the show. We took this dramatic pivot a year ago from a defensive team to an offensive team, and it worked. From December 24th to March 11th, we are the number 1 offensive team in the league. We switched 4 major pieces, right? Rubio, defense, terrible offense, to Conley, offense. Derek Favors, terrible offense as a 4, great defense, to Bojan, great offense. Dante Exum, good defense, terrible offense, to Jordan Clarkson, great offense. Jay Crowder, defense, poor shooter, to George Niang, unbelievable shooter. Okay, that was our pivot. It worked. We went from like middle 15th offense to number 1 offense for a period of time, higher for that run. And then the next thing, we dropped defensively. We went from elite defensively to 10th or 11th. Well, the area where we were not good defensively was in our bench units. Now, some of it was Moutier, some of it was Jeff Green early in the year. Tony's getting a lot of heat, but the fact was we couldn't play Tony 1 minute against Jokic. So we went and got Derek Favors back to see if we could keep the offensive excellence and bring the defense up. Well, if we're suddenly top 5 and both were elite, if we're top 10 and both were really good, if we're top 5 and 1 and top 10 and the other, we're super good. And that's where I think we are. And on that note, let's wrap this show. Great job. Ron and I will be with you tomorrow. Postcast this year will be different because Ron's on postgame. So I'll just be live with you, recapping the game, taking your questions right here on this format. So make sure you join us on postcast. Have a great one. Talk to you soon. Bye.